Good morning. Welcome to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. I am president of Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, a registered builder in the state of Texas, a graduate master builder certified by the National Association of Home Builders. Today's topics are going to be recent changes and requirements of the TRCC, mechanics liens, oil and gas development, asset protection, and my guests today are Kelly M. Davis with Kelly M. Davis & Associates, attorneys at law, and Gene Gibson, vice president of Gibson Home Builders Incorporated. How are y'all this morning?
Good morning.
Doing great.
All right. We'd like to answer any questions that listeners might have on anything dealing with remodeling or building in the state of Texas, and you can reach us at 877-341-8950. And to check out a builder, you can go to my website at www.masterbuildershow.com. Click on a link there for TRCC, and it'll take you right into their website. And you can check out and make sure that a builder's been registered. And we're going to talk about what first here this morning? The TRCC changes?
Sure. There's quite a bit of them.
All right. Let's start out with number one. What's the biggest change?
And who are they first? For somebody who doesn't know what TRCC is.
The TRCC is the Texas Residential Construction Commission. It was created a few years back to try to regulate the builders in the state of Texas. And they have done a lot of regulating since they first came on. And I think that everybody's somewhat getting used to what the new laws are regarding registration. All the builders have to be registered, and now all the homes have to be registered as well.
Oh.
Yeah, and they've changed on remodelers. It was $20,000 last year. If you're doing $20,000 in excess of $20,000, this year it's $10,000.
That's correct.
Now, what if I've got a client out here that hired me just to do a bunch of remodeling, but they'd hired electricians separately to do the electrical work. And what he's done, he's gone in there and they're going to rewire the whole house. And I think it's about a $17,000, something like that, remodel. Does he have to register?
I think that what the TRCC has done is they have created an exception for a one component type of job. So if you're going to go in and just tile a whole house, or you're going to go and do electric for a whole house, and that's all you're doing, then I don't think that you qualify under that particular statute.
I know roofers are exempt, but
yes, they are.
Okay, but if I go in and bid it and have my electricians, I've got to register.
Yes, you do.
All right.
Yes.
You know, one thing I've been curious about with the TRCC, why did they ever come into existence? What's driven the creation and the restrictions under the TRCC? What was going on in Texas that they had to be created?
Well, it was originally a builders lobby that did it. And what happened is the builders came on and said that they were getting sued continuously. And so it was for stuff that they considered to be minor that could have easily be fixed without having a lawsuit. And so what they wanted to do is have some kind of third-party inspector to come in and inspect it and say whether or not the homeowners had a legitimate complaint or whether or not they didn't have a legitimate complaint. So originally it was a builder's lobby, but because of all of the news and everything that's been going on regarding homeowners not having good experiences with builders, then that's kind of has moved this along to more of a homeowner type of situation.
The builders also were trying to level the playing field, and if I was building everything in the county, because there was no requirements in county, so I could go out here and build a home and meet all the codes, and I could have somebody come in and underbid me by $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 and not do anything by code, and the customer wouldn't know any different because everything's behind the walls. Mm-hmm. And so it's really, the builders are in favor of it, just so it levels the playing field. But
it's definitely created a whole set of standards which have to be met for everybody. It doesn't even matter what county you're in, or in county, out of county, that type of thing. There is a set of standards that's created now.
Would they supersede what the county already has in place?
They shouldn't actually supersede it, because the county shouldn't be going against what it is that they have.
The county doesn't have anything in place to start with. Unless you're in the city limits, is where you've got to meet your code requirements. Okay. And what they've done now is to make it to where no matter where you build, you've got to meet the codes, either national codes or the local codes that are involved. And so that's one of the primary aspects, and we're going to have third-party inspections coming up after this next September.
Right, September 1st, 2008. now anyone that is in an out-of-county area has to have third-party inspections for different types of, I guess, foundation, plumbing, electrical, I think.
Right. Yeah,
but if I just don't bother registering, if I'm a builder who's quietly out there building houses, I'm not a registered builder, I don't register the houses, so what? What's going to happen?
Well, if you look on the TRCC's website today, you'll see a big press release that they did recently where the Attorney General's office went after one of the builders after failing to register. I'm assuming after multiple times of being told to do so, and they just got the district court just approved what the AG's actions were. So they're going after them, is all I can say.
Well, it's up to $1,000 a day fine per violation. So it'll
get their attention.
It'll get their attention.
Violation is per house that's not registered?
Well,
is that a violation? Is that what you mean?
That's one violation.
That's one, but it could be a lot more than that depending on what it is that they do.
Like if they went in and built the house and they didn't meet codes on the electrical, didn't meet codes on the plumbing, didn't register the house. And so it could be, it's $1,000 a day per violation up to $100,000. Holy
cow.
And so
that's teeth in a law, isn't it?
Yeah.
And last September, they changed it quite a bit to add more teeth to the legislation itself. And I know that was one of the things they increased the amount that they could fine them. And then they basically are trying to do at this point where if a builder gets in trouble, they can't just go and open it under a new company name. Which is different.
That used to be a real good stunt. It's the same people saying everything.
So I think they kind of closed in some of the holes last September as to what was able to happen from builders.
We've got to take a little break here, and we'll be back here in a couple of minutes.
The entire nation are right here in Parker County. Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
YourCircleOfWealth.com. A recent study by one of the world's largest financial institutions estimates that over 90% of baby boomers will not retire financially independent. We have prepared a financial report entitled Your Circle of Wealth. Learn how changing the way you manage your money can dramatically increase your wealth. To get a copy, you may go to www.yourcircleofwealth.com and enter the passcode Gibson, Gibson. That's yourcircleofwealth.com.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties with a selection of interior and exterior lighting fixtures. They also have ceiling fans, mirrors, and vanities in all sizes. A lighting consultant will help you with your decisions. For an appointment with a Fort Worth Lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
North Texas Basements, 817-770-2768. With over 30 years of experience in residential construction, add extra living area, storm protection, and extra room that will be easy to heat and cool without needing a large piece of ground to build on. Think about having a basement in your next home. North Texas Basements, 817-770-BSMT or 817-770-2768. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I'm your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guests today are Kelly M. Davis with Kelly M. Davis & Associates, attorney at law. They practice construction law, and my wife, Jean Gibson, vice president of Gibson Home Builders.
Who's just flat out nosy.
Yeah, just nosy, and she's also CAP certified, which means Certified Aging in Place Specialist. We're talking about construction law, TRCC requirements, and we're going to try to touch on a bunch of subjects here. We were talking about the CERT process. Why don't you explain the CERT process?
Okay. The CERT process for all homeowners out there is the state inspection resolution process, and it is done through the TRCC. And nowadays, if you have a complaint against your builder, you're required to bring it through the CERT process prior to initiating any kind of legal action first. So it's not a hard process, but it's somewhat of a lengthy process. You have to go and fill out the applications, and you have to give your builder notice, certified mail with certain language in it, telling them what the problem is and give them the ability to remedy it prior to going through the process. And then what eventually happens is the TRCC hires a third-party inspector to come out and inspect your residence and specifically what it is that your complaints are. And that TRCC uses the foundations that have been created by the TRCC as to what they think is okay and what they think isn't okay, and creating a report to say whether or not something needs to be changed or
and eliminating the frivolous.
Exactly.
Well, it also gives the builder knowledge, I guess, or warning.
And a chance to rectify whatever the problem is. I think sometimes there's communication problems between homeowners and home builders. So
more than a structural problem.
Right. And sometimes it just takes that process for them to finally get down to what it is that the problem is and can it be fixed to everybody's satisfaction.
Can you give me a couple of examples of what would be considered frivolous and what would be substantive? Well,
I've seen CERT complaints where, they were upset because the light switches on the wall were a little crooked, or they have some complaint that's more cosmetic in nature. Okay. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, the cosmetic type stuff, unless it's pretty bad, they're not going to get involved in. They're going to get more into the structural and the mechanicals of whether or not something's working, that type of thing.
And on the cosmetic, then the TRCC forces the two parties to settle it. Do they stay involved on the lighter side of the problems?
The TRCC can't force anybody to do anything. It's just kind of
and they don't mediate either.
No.
On the lighter stuff.
No, it's a resolution process, but they can't force anybody to do it. But I'm just saying that most of the times they don't handle most of the cosmetic stuff unless it's really bad. If it's something that's obviously blatant, they will, but not something that's small.
And during the break, excuse me, baby. During the break, you also said that if someone goes to their lawyer and files a suit against their builder, that it would be halted.
Basically, what will happen is the attorney for the builder would file what's called a motion to abate in the court, and that means that it stops until they actually go through this CERT process.
So this is the first process on any time that you've got any kind of dispute with your builder.
Yes.
And you go file that. And just make sure it's not frivolous.
Unless it's a contractual dispute with your builder, like if it's just a money thing,
right,
then you don't have to go through this. But if it's anything regarding warranties or, anything relating to a complaint regarding the structure itself or the construction itself, it'd have to go through this.
Yeah, I've had several people asking, well, do you offer the same warranties as the other builders? What is the ruling on that?
Well, nowadays everybody has to have the same warranties, and I think it's
1 year.
1 year for all the
craftsmanship, basically,
exactly. And
or workmanship, and then it's 2 years on all your mechanicals, which is your electrical, your plumbing, your air conditioning systems, and it's 10 years on structure, and that covers anything that happens, and that could you could be the 10th person in there on the ninth year, 9th month, and have a structural failure, and the builder's still responsible for that structure.
Correct. I think the only difference is that builders have the choice whether or not they want to go through a warranty company or whether or not they want to warranty it personally. And so, that's the only difference.
Is there any advantage for a builder to go out to a third-party company to insure the home other than, well, I guess monetary
I think it's an advantage sometimes for the homeowner because, I mean, if it's a warranty company that has been around for a long time and has a good reputation, then, you know, it's not a possibility on year 10 they're not going to be able to find that builder or be able to find them to pay for this foundation that's failed. So there is that advantage with a lot of builders going in and out. If it's not a builder that has been around a long time that has a good reputation, it might be better for the homeowner to get a warranty company.
And that does cost the homeowner extra
it does.
because the builder has to pay extra for it. It's a certain percentage.
It's like an insurance policy.
Yeah. Right. But it was thousands of dollars that we're talking about here. We're not talking about a $59.95.
No, I think
insurance
it's a few thousand. It depends on how big the house is, I think.
It's by square foot.
Well, it's not by square foot. It's by $100 cost.
Value,
yeah. And when they do go into this process, like I'm not going to say any names on the air, but when they do, you have to have that particular warranty company. Also, they send their inspectors out because they're not going to warranty anything that they haven't inspected. So they come out and they'll inspect your foundation pre-pour to make sure that you've got piers. If it requires piers, you've got to have an engineered foundation. There's all sorts of things that you follow in their process for these warranty companies to warranty them. So, you know, they're earning their money. You're actually getting a service. But you're going to talk about mechanics liens also. You want to kind of explain what a mechanics lien is and why builders put them against the dwelling?
Sure. Well, right now we have a big problem, you know, with financially. I mean, this has always been this way, but it's gotten a lot worse lately, where, you know, either builders aren't paying their subs or their vendors or, you know, somehow the bank's holding up the money. I mean, there's all kinds of different situations, but we do anywhere from about 50 to 100 mechanics liens a month right now, which is a huge amount. And usually what happens is a vendor or a subcontractor will come to me and say that they haven't gotten paid on a build job, you know, whether or not they put a gutter in or whether or not they put a countertop in. It doesn't really matter what it is, and that they would like to get paid. And so we go through what's called the mechanics lien process. And what that does is it gives the homeowner notice that there's a problem, number one. I mean, that's the part that I like about it is that sometimes if the mechanics lien process isn't followed correctly, the homeowner doesn't know there's a problem until way far in the process. So if the deadlines are followed, then the homeowner hopefully will be notified quickly that there's a problem. And usually what happens is they have to send a notice letter first.
All right, we've got to take another break. We'll be back here in a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
Are you having a construction-related issue? Do you need a construction attorney? If so, you may call the law firm of Kelly M. Davis and Associates. Kelly's family background in the construction industry has led to her focus in construction litigation with over 9 years of experience practicing construction law in and around the metro area. For more information, you may visit www.kmdalegal.com or you may call 972-434-8009. That's 972-434-8009.
Alamo Appliance, 100 South Riverside Drive in Fort Worth, has been dedicated to serving your needs in kitchen appliances for over 35 years. They offer Genair, KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Amana, and many others. Their experienced sales staff will help you make the right decisions at the right time. That's Alamo Appliance, 817-531-2701. Once again, that's Alamo Appliance, 817-531-2701.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving the building professional in Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties. Services include planned takeoff, site walkthrough, and delivery. For an appointment with a Fort Worth Lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. Again, it's 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
I'm Jean Gibson, and I love Weatherford, and I'm proud to offer Zion Hill Estates. Zion Hill Estates is a country development 5 minutes from the center of Weatherford, grocery stores, hospitals, banks, department stores, and in the Peaster School District. 1 acre lot minimums gives you space to spread your arms and enjoy country living. 2 or more acres will give you space for your horse or your goats. Gibson Home Builders, 682-429-2116, will build you the home of your dreams in Zion Hill Estates. Go north of the square to 920, left on Zion Hill Road for 2.4 miles to Zion Hill Estates. We'd like to show you the land and an energy-efficient model home. The number is 682-429-2116.
Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guests today are Kelly Davis and Jean Gibson. Kelly Davis is with Kelly M. Davis and Associates Law Firm. And my wife, Jean Gibson, is Vice President of Gibson Home Builders.
He does that to butter me up. He gives me a title once in a while.
I give her a title, yes,
It doesn't help, but, you know.
It's better than royal pain in the butt or something. I mean,
That's later. But we're talking about mechanics liens.
Yeah, and
what I missed. Wait a minute, excuse me.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Keep going.
I know it's your show, but
am I going to have to mediate this?
yeah. Well, you were saying they're filing these liens.
Yes, they are.
Against whom and who pays?
Well, see, and that's kind of, I guess, what all the homeowners need to understand as well is that the lien goes against the property in which they perform the work. Okay, so if they put flooring in and that is an improvement to that particular house or property, then it goes against that property. And if the homeowner, I get this all the time, the homeowners will call my office and they've gotten a notice letter and they'll say, hey, you know, we paid our builder on that. What's the deal? You know, they don't want to be held responsible, obviously.
Or pay twice.
And I'm like, well, unfortunately, it goes against the property. The best thing that you can do is, you know, go get your home builder to pay my client or whoever the vendor is because they didn't get paid. And so, you know, there are some safeguards like, you know, lien waivers to make sure that they've actually paid who they say that they're going to pay, or bills paid affidavits, you know, just depending on your bank and
yeah, we've got all those forms, and I go actually and have my plumber sign or my electrician sign the form if necessary. Of course, we always pay ours, but we were getting calls there at one time.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, another builder with the same name, and it got very confusing.
Anyway.
Builder Jim out there. And so we got a lot of confusion over it. So,
well, I always tell my home builders that to be safe, you know, for them, it's more safe for them to get a lien waiver when they give them the check. That makes sure that there can't have a lien filed on the property. And so for a homeowner, that would probably be the same recommendation as well.
Excellent.
All right, we're going to talk about, my wife is wanting you to talk about oil and gas leases. And
she's chomping at the bit over there.
Yeah,
I know.
the Barnett, essentially broken through the Barnett Shale. It's big business out here. I mean, very big business out here.
It's huge business. I mean, this used to not be very big oil and gas, you know, land, and now all of a sudden everybody knows about it. Everybody's getting knocks on the door, or paper in the mail, or you know, homeowners associations bringing it up. So it gets brought up on a daily basis at this point.
What is your rights by law? I mean, if the gas company wants to come through your property, do you have any recourse if you don't want them to?
Well, I mean, it depends on, gas companies kind of very broad. I mean, it depends on if you're talking about a regulated gas company from the state of Texas that have the rights to do stuff like that. They go through with the takings clause in Texas, and they can come through your property.
It's called a takings clause?
That's what that's the general part, is the takings clause. Yeah.
Is that eminent domain?
Yes.
Okay. But we've got lots of little gas companies around here that are just putting in wells. They're close. They're all around us. They've gone through our property. So I trucked myself over to the records office here in Weatherford, and then it got really confusing. I found our deed. I found a predecessor's deed. I found an old oil lease from the 30s for our property.
It's very, very confusing. I mean, most of the time, these oil companies hire what's called landmen to do the research for them, and they can be attorneys or they can be just people that have some knowledge about the records department. And pretty much if you go into any records department of any county that's near here, you're going to see them camped out there. If you wonder who those people are, that's who they are. They're doing record searches for particular properties, trying to find out who owns the mineral rights. And I've seen them go back into the 1800s and split up into 1/32. So, when you see that type of thing, it can be very confusing for most individuals, and it can be very time consuming to figure out who owns the mineral rights.
Yeah, well, if you wanted to do it, what are we looking at? Is it just time and
it's time and money?
Right.
I think that these landmen charge, I think it's about $150 a day to go and start researching, and it could take many, many days.
Yeah. And I think that's cheap when you consider how difficult it is to dig through all that.
Yes.
What we were told was that they only go back a certain number of years, and since that oil, it's a capped off old oil well someplace out in the back property, was that since it was so old, it's not in effect anymore. Is that a safe assumption?
Well, I mean, you're talking about a lease that was on your property
from the 30s.
Well, you'd have to see what that lease says to how long they have.
So it's not a safe assumption.
It may not be. They have the right to come back and reopen it at some point, depending on what the contract says.
Heavens knows where the contract is.
That's the problem. I mean, these contracts are running around, and I'm telling you, they all say different things. Sometimes I've seen these contracts where they're giving surface rights where the people don't think that they have any right to the surface. Sometimes they don't even say mineral on it. It's just giving them a lease to your land. So people are signing things. I think they're getting a little bit more savvy about it. But, in the last few years, they've signed things that perhaps they shouldn't be signing.
And it's costing them money in the long run. It
is, because they could have negotiated that contract for what it is that they wanted it to state, probably for a larger amount of money.
Wow.
They're everywhere with these. If you do a land lease, let the pipeline come across, and you get paid for it, you had mentioned something to me about a problem with the mortgages too.
Right.
There's a limitation now?
Yes, there's a lot of problems with the mortgage companies right now. I think it's GMAC, Homecomings Financial, I think was what its former name is, now has as part of their policy on their website that they are going to not give any mortgages for any homes that they actually do own the mineral rights. So that seems kind of backwards as to what you would be thinking. But what their point of view is that the mineral rights are worth so much right here, right now, that that a lot of people will abandon their house in favor of their mineral rights. So, they may just say, hey, I'm going to tear this house down and put an oil rig up here, and it's going to make me a lot more money. And so they've gotten so concerned about the houses being abandoned that their policy is that they're not going to give any mortgages to people with who actually have the mineral rights.
And and the pipeline you said too, the surface rights with the pipelines coming across is a problem.
There is absolutely no mortgage company out here that will give you a mortgage on a property in which you have given up your surface rights unless they are very happy with how it is that you've reserved your house and the land around it. They want to make sure that you've reserved your house, part of your surface, and a certain percentage of the land around your house. And if you haven't done so, they won't give you a mortgage either.
Wow, that never, ever came up when they were out there with those pipeline papers to sign. They were just waving checks at you.
This is literally, and they're not going to tell you that. They don't represent you. So, you have to understand when these people come to your door and trying to get you to sign a lease, they don't represent you, and they're not going to tell you what the bad, the pitfalls are of these leases. And you really need to make sure what you're getting into before you sign them.
So you need to contact your attorney prior to signing anything with any of these gas companies.
Yes. And I mean, we have them come in daily where at the very least, they're coming in just to have us look at the lease and say, does this say what we think it says? And we look at it and say, well, no, it doesn't. Or yes, it does. If that's what you want, then certainly. And we obviously bring up pitfalls if they don't know about them. But,
yeah. This is the first I've heard of it.
I want to go back to the mechanics liens here a little bit, because I know a lot of the vendors out there, well, not vendors, but a lot of the subcontractors out there don't realize that they've got recourse now, where they didn't before, that they can go in and actually file liens against the property when they haven't been paid by their builder. And, it really goes on more than not in some of these rural areas where they'll go out and the concrete guy will come out and do the work, and all of a sudden he doesn't get paid. And so I just want to make sure all you people out there that are subcontractors that are working for a builder somewhere, if he's not paying you, you do have some recourse and can get your money back.
And I think the most important thing is that if they go to an attorney that does that a lot, I mean, that is what they do, then it's not going to be that costly. I think a lot of these people think it's not worth the time or the money. And I mean, I already told y'all how many we do a month, and I can tell you that those particular individuals, they've seen that it is worth the cost, of filing the lien, because what'll happen is when it finally goes to sale, a title company, will end up pulling the lien and calling usually my office and saying, hey, we have this lien on this property. How much is it going to cost to negotiate it? And we usually add up what the lien is, what their attorney's fees were, and what the interest is, and say that's what it is. And if there's no negotiating with title companies, they just pay it. And so, if those people want to close on that land, or that house, it's got to be paid. So
it's still falling back on the homeowner, though. If he hasn't settled things with his builder prior to closing.
Well,
it could be a spec home too. I mean, it's
a lot of them are spec homes, but I will say that the point with the notice letter to the homeowner is that once you send that notice letter to the homeowner is supposed to stop paying their builder. They're immediately supposed to stop, and that limits the amount of damage that they have to the 10% retainage that they hold and anything else that they haven't paid. So it's incumbent upon the homeowner to look at these letters and understand what they have to do as a homeowner to limit their damages. And it is limited if they do what they're supposed to do.
Excellent. Well, it falls then back onto the sub to recognize he's protecting himself and all the other subs by filing that lien.
And you're saying it basically costs to start primarily about $100.
We normally goes from about $200 to $400 for the mechanics lien process. I mean, there's a lot of law firms that would charge a lot more than that, and it's not because they are trying to gouge somebody. It's because they just don't do that a lot. And the mechanics lien process is very confusing. It's very complicated. If you get one thing wrong, literally one thing wrong in the mechanics lien process, then your lien will be held invalid. So a lot of vendors and subs are doing their own mechanics liens, and they're not valid because they try their hardest, but they didn't put the right language in, or they didn't give the right person notice, or they didn't send it at the right time.
And you've got a time restraint there also, don't you? What is your time period after doing the work?
For a residential home, you have to do the notice letter the 15th day of the second month after you do the work. So if I went out and did the work today, and it's March, so that means by May 15th, I would have to give somebody the notice letter, and by June 15th, I would have to actually have filed the mechanics lien. So it's different for commercial. You add a month on the timelines for commercial.
All right.
Well, and one of the things, too, to make this a more understandable situation is that with our subs, I don't know if all builders do this, but with our subs, when the work is finished, they're paid. So that we pay we do. We pay weekly on a lot of these jobs, or portions thereof weekly. So the 2-month period is really a long time for a sub to go without payment.
Well, I make sure that I tell all my subs, and especially vendors is where you see this more of a trouble. Sometimes they won't bill until the end of the month.
Right.
I tell them they need to really be billing pretty much immediately or weekly, and that way they have more time on these mechanics liens. Because if they did at the beginning on the first of the month, and they don't bill to the end of the month, they've lost 30 days on their timeline.
We've got to take another break, and we'll be back here in just a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
Are you looking for a law firm with an understanding of the construction industry? Kelly M. Davis and Associates experience includes home inspections, construction contracts, disputes with builders, and helping subcontractors or vendors that have not been paid for their services. For more information, you may visit www.kmdalegal.com or you may call 972-434-8009. That's 972-434-8009.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving the building professional in Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties. Services include planned takeoff, site walkthrough, and delivery. For an appointment with a Fort Worth Lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. Again, it's 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
I'm Jean Gibson, and I love Weatherford, and I'm proud to offer Zion Hill Estates. Zion Hill Estates is a country development 5 minutes from the center of Weatherford, grocery stores, hospitals, banks, department stores, and in the Peaster School District. 1 acre lot minimums gives you space to spread your arms and enjoy country living. 2 or more acres will give you space for your horse or your goats. Gibson Home Builders, 682-429-2116, will build you the home of your dreams in Zion Hill Estates. Go north of the square to 920, left on Zion Hill Road for 2.4 miles to Zion Hill Estates. We'd like to show you the land and an energy-efficient model home. The number is 682-429-2116.
Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I'm your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guests today are Kelly M. Davis with Kelly M. Davis and Associates, a law firm, and my wife, Jean. And we're talking about mechanics liens before we left the show this last time. And I guess we're going to move on to...
Or why don't you let Kelly state again what she was saying off the air, though, about the little guys with the great big... productions.
One of the big things that we're seeing right now is that, you'll see a vendor or a subcontractor that they may do a couple $1,000s worth of work, but they're doing it for one of the larger name kind of track home builders. Mm-hmm. Well, they may do 20 or 30 homes in a month of whatever the product is that they do. And then what's happening is the bigger home builders, it's taken a lot longer time for them to get paid because it has to go up the chain of command for them to actually get a check. And a lot of times they're missing their mechanics lien rights because they wait too long thinking that it's going to take a while to get a check for them. And on the opposite side, if they go and start the lien process for them, you have so many houses that you have to do the liens on. They have to go through the process for every single house. But they still do it. Most of my clients, they still do it because they always get paid. And technically you can put your attorney's fees as part, by statute, you're allowed to get your attorney's fees back.
So if they had 30 houses, then they got to file 30 liens in that month. Mm-hmm. And, but a lot of these things, a lot of these big builders, though, you were saying we're about 60 days out in paying. And once that 60 days has come through, then you have no rights to file a lien.
Exactly. Or you can file a lien, but it'll technically be invalid. So if somebody disputes the lien, then, that you should be removing it because it would not be a valid lien.
Yeah.
We were talking about the seller's rights as far as keeping the mineral rights. I think you want to kind of touch on that a little bit. Right.
There's a lot of confusion and has been for years as to if you are a seller and you have a piece of property, how is it that you retain the rights to your minerals? Okay. And a lot of people thought that if they didn't specifically give it, that they kept it. And it's actually opposite than that. When you put your property up for sale, you need to be disclosing that you want to keep the mineral rights of it and that you're reserving it. And then when you actually sign a contract for the sale of that property, you have to have very specific language in there of what it is that you're keeping. A lot of realtors nowadays are being advised, that they can't practice law, so they're not supposed to be drafting specific clauses as to what it is that you're keeping. And depending on what the clause says, it can have a lot of meaning. You know, are you keeping the oil? Are you keeping the gas? Are you keeping, you know, surface? I mean, what is it that you're keeping? And so, I know, that TREC is trying to help a little bit with this as far as, the residential construction, contracts. They're trying to make it a little bit more where people can check the boxes type of thing and make it easier on the realtors. But a lot of people don't use those contracts when they sell their property.
And TREC is Texas Real Estate Commission.
Commission, yes.
Okay.
So
one of the things that we did have a problem with was it was a little checkbox, and that we were given that we went back before we bought property. That it just said every subsurface. That the sellers were going to retain everything subsurface. And I said, gas and oil aside, we need to drill a well.
Right,
You're restricting on water.
Right, water. That's the thing, is that you got to be really careful what you're signing, and that those are form contracts, but you can certainly have in there that does not include your ability to, you know, drill water wells or put in sprinkler systems or,
but technically it does say you can't do all those things.
Well, if you're going subsurface, couldn't even put in a septic.
If you want to get real technical.
You're right.
If they have everything below the surface, then you only
Where does
own
the surface begin and end?
I think that's the problem with these contracts, that you just check the boxes. They try to make it easy where you understand what it is, but they end up creating more problems in the end.
And there's really no problem with any of this, that you go ahead and you drill your well until a previous owner finds out that they have a mega oil well under the property.
Right.
That's when you start running into everything.
Right.
So it's going to require another lawsuit from a previous owner to come after you.
Once you get it in your contract, though, you have to make sure that it's in your deed. And the other big thing that I'm seeing is that, I mean, title companies, they're sending these deeds out like it's just normal type of everyday thing, but they don't really realize that, for instance, that you have reserved the mineral rights. So a lot of times it won't get into your deeds. And then if it doesn't get into your deeds, it doesn't matter what your contract said to begin with.
Oh, okay.
And so that's a big issue, is that when, you know, if you are reserving the mineral rights, to make sure that your deed has the correct language as well. And that's the one particular document I tell everybody that you really do need to have somebody look over it and make sure it has reserved it correctly, because you can't trust a title company to make sure that they have put the correct language in it.
Oh.
Touchy.
Yeah,
very
touchy.
And that the residential or the real estate commission is addressing this, or is not?
Well, they're addressing it through the contract stage, but not in the deed stage. No.
And who's in the deeds are state documents?
No,
national?
They're usually bank documents that, you know, so normally the title companies, you know, they're doing it in conjunctions with whatever your bank, your lender is. And so, you know, but they're not really checking to make sure that your specific clauses, let's just say that it was like the one you were talking about where it said subsurface, and maybe you put an exclusion in there and said, well, it doesn't include, you know, water, septic. The title company probably would never have caught that to put that in a deed.
And there is no mother company or industry.
No, there's not like a commission or anything that would look over that. So as a seller and as a buyer, you have to be very careful and know that, you know, the title companies tell you that you should have an attorney review them for a reason. And the reason is because they're not going to, you know, their rear is covered basically if they didn't happen to put it in there.
And you better get somebody who understands the gas and oil wells.
And understands what the language has to specifically be, because it's very specific in Texas.
Very confusing in Texas. I can just envision when this gas boom is over and all the wells are sitting there pumping,
years.
Courts are going to go nuts, because that's when everybody realizes what they've missed out on.
Well, and at some point there's going to be a real influx of cases where they're asking the court to make a decision or a determination as to what this contract means. Does it mean that this person has the rights on this? And because there's, like I said, they're so willy-nilly. They say so much different kind of language that there's a real problem in Texas. All
right, we're going to move on to asset protection. How about that?
All right.
Let's talk about asset protection. What is asset protection?
Well, I mean, it can come in many forms. If you own a business, like if you're a vendor or a subcontractor, you have to have a asset entity. You don't have to, but you should.
All right, we've got to take another break. We'll be back here in a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
Are you having a construction-related issue? Do you need a construction attorney? If so, you may call the law firm of Kelly M. Davis and Associates. Kelly's family background in the construction industry has led to her focus in construction litigation, with over 9 years of experience practicing construction law in and around the metro area. For more information, you may visit www.kmdalegal.com, or you may call 972-434-8009. That's 972-434-8009. I'm Jean Gibson, and I love Weatherford, and I'm proud to offer Zion Hill Estates. Zion Hill Estates is a country development 5 minutes from the center of Weatherford, grocery stores, hospitals, banks, department stores, and in the Peaster School District. 1 acre lot minimums gives you space to spread your arms and enjoy country living. 2 or more acres will give you space for your horse or your goats. Gibson Home Builders, 682-429-2116, will build you the home of your dreams in Zion Hill Estates. Go north of the square to 920, left on Zion Hill Road for 2.4 miles to Zion Hill Estates. We'd like to show you the land and an energy-efficient model home. The number is 682-429-2116.
Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guests today are Kelly M. Davis with Kelly M. Davis and Associates, attorneys at law, and Jean, my wife. I'm not going to give you a title this time. Anyway, we're talking about, before we went on the break, we were talking about asset protection. And that means when you're, I guess, forming a limited partnership or a limited liability company, corporation, or nonprofit corporation, it's one of the entities, correct? I mean, you're actually setting up something to kind of cover yourself from what?
Well, I mean, that's a lot of people, they don't understand that if they don't have some kind of either a LLC, a lot of people know it, that's a limited liability company, or a corporation, something like that to protect them. If they get sued or if they have a claim against them, that actually goes against them personally. What that means is that, you know, people can lien your house and take away automobiles and get into SEPs and, you know, that type of thing. And they really just don't understand that. So, you know, if you have a company that there is a possibility that you could have some kind of liability, either whether it be through debt or whether it be through, you know, accidents. Maybe you're a roofing company and it's a big possibility that some roofer, one of your subs, one of your employees would fall off a roof. That's a perfect example of someone that needs some kind of asset protection through an entity. And so you can set up an entity that will help you shield you personally of liability.
What's the advantages and disadvantages of each one?
Well, I don't do taxes, thank goodness, but I have to pay my own. That's enough. But I can tell you that it does have some tax. It makes it a little bit different. Like a limited liability company, tax-wise, I believe is the same as you personally for a sole proprietorship. But if you do a corporation, I know that you get taxed as an S corp, and it is a little bit different. So I know that people come to me and they have different comments about, how it is that they're going to get taxed. And my usual response is that the government will get you regardless of what entity you're in. But, either way, I think that the benefits majorly outweigh any kind of taxes you're going to have to pay because, again, you're protecting your company and your family.
Right. And people that are going down to get a tax ID number need to consult a lawyer first, and actually a tax lawyer, to find out the tax benefits. Because I think back when we started our corporation back years ago, went down to open a bank account, and of course they put you in touch with the federal government to get a tax ID number. Well, they will ask you at that time, what do you want to be? Or you want to be a LLC? You want to be an S corp? You want to be a full corp? And all this other stuff. And if you go down there and blind, and you can ask the people on the phone, well, which is the best for me? They'll say, sir, just pick one. Just pick one, sir. And they won't give you any advice, and they're not allowed to give you any advice. So it's best that you consult somebody that is knowledgeable. And,
an attorney is what you're talking about.
Or a CPA. A CPA usually,
guide you too.
Because we'll start up corporations for people, but I normally say, hey, I can't help you with the tax-wise, how it's going to affect you. You're going to have to contact a CPA to tell you, because it's each business and how much revenue they bring in, that all gets taken into account.
Well, what about in protection of assets as it ties back into these liens? We're talking about building custom home here. How can I protect my assets, this house that's being built, against the mechanics liens that we were just talking about? You've got mechanic liens against the house. Now what do I do?
Well, I mean,
how do I protect myself?
You can make sure that you're getting waivers and releases and that type of thing from your sub or your vendor.
And that's all disclosed when you sign the contract, or should be disclosed.
Well, anytime you're closing on a piece of property, that's one thing they're going to ask you: has all your bills, all your vendors, all your subs been paid? And if you actually sign it and you're not telling the truth, then you're subject to perjury, I guess. And
it's a criminal penalty, and in fact, we're pursuing one of those in the Tarrant County DA's office right now. So
if a builder hasn't paid his subs, and then he's subject probably to some jail time.
Yes, there is a big possibility, depending on what it is that they've signed and that type of thing, how much it is that they didn't pay.
What lien?
And that's after the fact, on the front end.
There's nothing you can do on the front end.
Well, you've got a contract on the front end. Well, what should I look for in the contract with the builder? How do I protect myself there?
You need to make sure that it has, you can get on the TRCC website and look at all the disclosures that should be in your contract and make sure that you have an attorney review it and make sure that they are not putting something in there that shouldn't be in there and that everything that should be in there is in there.
Yeah, most of us have bought the contract from TAB and
the Texas Association of Builders.
And that was set up in conjunction with TRCC. And we're going to have to wrap up here in just a few minutes. Kelly, you want to give us a little history on you and what you do
and what you plan to do for us?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I am an attorney, and I've been doing this since 1999, and I come from a family of builders. So, having seen the building industry, both the commercial and the residential, I was one of those little girls that you see running around on the job site. So this is when I became an attorney, I decided that's what I wanted to do, is more the construction and the real estate type of litigation. So I have a firm in Louisville, and I have about 8 employees, and we do general stuff, but we specialize, I can't say specialize in the sense, but we focus on the construction litigation. So,
well, it's been a pleasure having you on our show today.
Well, there was one more part though that we've asked Kelly to do, is to do a spot for us regularly to keep our listeners up to date on the laws, the changes, focusing on the construction component.
Yeah, we'll be taking what we talked about today and breaking it down a little bit more for the listeners,
That's
and hopefully
wonderful.
They can understand it a little bit better.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll
Thanks for
see
having
y'all.
me.
Yeah, thank you very much, and we'll see everybody next Tuesday, same time, same place.